Single market distortion exposed. 99.8% of EU goods do not pass through NI. Brussels has been accused of weaponising peace in Northern Ireland, with it claimed that goods crossing the Northern Ireland border would put the integrity of the entire single market at risk. The latest data available shows only 0.2% of goods imported into the bloc cross the boundary between the Republic of Ireland and the 6 counties. The figure flies in the face of dire warnings coming from Eurocrats for months, suggesting the bloc's single market would be undermined if checks on goods travelling from Great Britain to Northern Ireland are not carried out. The EU argues that such measures are necessary to ensure no unauthorised product ends up in the Republic, a member state. But the likelihood of this happening is slim, as official figures show. According to facts4eu.org, 99.8% of all the goods imported into the EU in 2019, the most recent year for which data is available, did not cross the boundary from Northern Ireland. A report by the website titled Exposed: How EU Has Weaponised Peace in NI over 1/500th of EU's goods import said, put simply, the integrity of the EU single market is not at risk from goods crossing the NI border. 99.8% of all EU's goods imports do not cross the border from Northern Ireland. This is and has always been a bizarre, manufactured, and completely implausible argument used by the EU to punish the UK for leaving by annexing part of its territory. Last month, Brandon Lewis, the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, hit out at Brussels for ordering unnecessary checks on foods which are not destined for the Republic. He pointed to checks being carried out on Sainsbury's goods, despite the supermarket giant having no store below the border. He said the rules meant businesses are having to grapple with a burdensome regime of checks and processes. Tensions between the UK and France over the Northern Ireland Protocol are only going to worsen in the coming days, Tory MP Andrew Bridgen forecast. Conservative MP Andrew Bridgen said the UK is already in a trade war with the EU and blamed French President Emmanuel Macron for using the chaos as political capital for his presidential campaign next year. In a brutal skewer, the North West Leicestershire MP said the Northern Ireland Protocol is not working and is being used by EU leaders as a stick to beat us with. He also explained how onerous post-Brexit checks are taking place on goods arriving in Northern Ireland from the UK, despite them making up a very small percentage, before admitted things are going to get worse before they get better. The North West Leicestershire MP added, clearly they are not doing that, the protocol is not working. He then warned, it is being used as a stick to beat us. And I'm afraid it is going to get worse before it gets better. I think we are going to have to threaten to suspend the protocol, as we can under Article 16 due to disruption of trade within the United Kingdom. The Tory MP's comments come as tensions soar between the EU and UK over the Northern Ireland Protocol. Prime Minister Boris Johnson told Brussels to get it into their heads that the UK is a single country in a fiery statement amid continued anger at the implementation of the Northern Ireland Protocol. The EU has accused the UK of failing to properly implement the terms of the agreement by unilaterally suspending customs checks on some goods. Johnson has threatened to tear up the Brexit deal and said he would not hesitate to invoke Article 16 of the protocol, which would mean suspending the terms of the agreement if the EU failed to change its position.